Hi, welcome and welcome back. I did a video about, I did a couple videos about the neck and yoga for the neck, and in particular the one video I talked about how the neck is not just the neck because of all the connections that we have from our jaw through our neck to the collarbones and the breastbone to the shoulder blades to the spine down to the pelvis. And well, that's just the muscles that sort of involve the neck, and then those muscles interleave with all kinds of other muscles. So often the neck, issues with the neck are not just about the neck. So we did a little practice. You can check out that video. And one of the things that I didn't do in that practice, because I didn't want it to get too long, was sunrise, sunset. And so I thought I'd do another quick video on that because it can be a really, really cool illuminating movement. Not just for the neck, but for other things, because it involves the movement of the shoulders, the arm bones, the shoulder blades on the ribs, the rib cage relative to the pelvis, and even we can get into the pelvis and the leg bone. So we can do a lot of really interesting things here. So let's take a look. I have a set of blocks. I have 3 blocks. You may not need any. You'll see. And I also have a little blanket, so I have a little softer spot for my head. So we're going to be lying on our side, and I'm going to use one block under my head with a blanket on top of it because that makes it about the right height and not quite so hard, more comfy, yeah? So I'm trying to get my head more or less in line. And then I have my knees bent, my hips and my upper body are stacked. I'm going to take this block and just have it behind me handy when I need it. And I'm going to use this arm. I'm going to first just let my arm rest. And I like to use a block. I like to have my arm rest on something. You could also use a bolster. You could have it rest on the floor. You could also just have it out in the air. I just find it a little more restful to have it on something. So find your breath and settle here. Oh, I should have mentioned one other place that you may want to block, maybe I'll use this one, is between your legs. So often for people to have that top leg, I don't know if you can really see it sort of slanting down, that can get uncomfortable after a while. So you can also bring a block. I like to have it between my thighs and my lower leg so it's fully supported. But you can play around with that. Again, you may not need one. You may not need your hand resting on something. So here we are, and we're going to focus in on that top shoulder blade, and that shoulder blade is going to move away from the spine, so the arm moves away from you, and then draw the shoulder blade back. So it moves away and moves back. And I'm going to just come up to the camera for a moment. So the movement is the shoulder blade sliding away and sliding back, sliding away and sliding back. So I'm not moving my elbow. I'm not lifting here. I'm trying not to lift there. So it's sliding around here and back. And that can be helpful too. You can always bring your fingers in to that space under your arm to feel that arm sliding forward and back. Yeah, so I'm not gonna worry about the block between my legs here. So we'll slide it forward and back a few times. Just playing with that shoulder blade moving on the rib cage. And then we can just pause there. Let the shoulder blade just be neutral. We'll take the arm up. I like to just take by taking it up. It's pointing to high noon, right? To the sun, and coming on back down. And coming up to point at noon. So this is the sunrise part. And then we'll come up and the arm is just going to stay in the socket. So often what people will do is take the arm back. Okay, well that's something. That's, moving the arm bone in the socket, and I can feel something happening in the front of my shoulder. But where we want to focus here now is where the ribs are and the hips. So we're going to rotate and roll the rib cage back, and the arm just comes along and we roll the rib cage forward. So we come up sunrise to noon, roll the rib cage, head follows. Come on back, come on down. So often what can happen here is the pelvis comes to, and we have the whole body roll. Sometimes, I talked about the arms, sometimes the head leads. So see if you can notice if any of that is happening. If you're finding the head leads, see if you can just relax through your neck. And isn't that interesting? If you have neck issues and your head is leading the movement, interesting, right? So see if you can let the head just relax and follow. And if you're finding that you can't quite get the ribs and hips to move separately, I like to sometimes bring my hands there and even just kind of help the ribs move, roll back and roll forward, roll back. So you don't have to have the actual sunrise and sunset with the arms. You can also play with the pelvis rolling forward and back. So the ribs stay still. And again, I'm using my hands here, both to, I can give myself a little bit of an assist, but I can also feel what's going on. And I can see a little bit too, my knees coming forward and back. Okay, take a breath and a rest. So we've worked the arm bone and the shoulder, we've worked the shoulder blade on the rib cage, we've played around with the ribs and the pelvis. Now we're going to add the leg bone in the pelvis. So I'm going to take this upper leg and I'm going to rotate it up. Now, some people will be able to rotate that leg right back like this and set it on the ground. Well, for me to do that, I think you can see I've already rolled back quite a bit. I've got some limitation in my rotation on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my block and I'm going to put that block behind my bottom leg. I'm going to straighten that leg out a little bit so I have more space for the block. I'm going to rotate that leg and set my foot on the block. So I don't need as much. It's a little bit easier for me to rest that foot on the block. And you can see that for some people, for you maybe, your knee might be pointing straight up to the sky. Mine's not quite there. So I'm just finding where I can be comfortable. My hips are mostly stacked. This is mostly stacked. And now I'm going to think about rotating this leg bone as if the knee were going to point to the sky. So you can see that for me to point the knee to the sky, I actually have to rotate my pelvis. So I don't want to do that. I want to play with the leg bone in the pelvis. So I'm just going to move it in the range where the pelvis doesn't have to move. And I can breathe and there's no weird stuff going on. And once you get the feel of that, and get that a rest, and let's come back to bringing that other arm out in front. Again, it could be on the block, it could be on the floor, it could be just hanging out in the air, the bolster, whatever. You decide. And now we're going to do both things at once. We're going to protract, so move the shoulder blade away from the spine so the arm moves towards or away from you, and rotate that leg bone as if the knee is going towards the sky, and then come on back to neutral. So we protract and rotate at the same time and come on back. And just a few times here. And if you feel like going a few more times, you can always put me on pause. And we're just going to let that go. And roll over onto our backs. And just feel what has happened. You can stretch out your legs if you want. And just kind of notice, okay, well, what is the result of what I just did? How does my body feel if I compare my left and right sides? I can tell you, for me, the side that was on top feels closer to the ground. Feels a little longer. A little heavier, but a little softer. And let's flip over to the other side. I'm going to turn myself right around. You can just flip right over if you like. And let's see what happens on side 2. And your experience on side 2. So again, side lying, supporting your head so that it's in line with your neck and your torso, so you're not like scrunched up or falling down. If you need a block between those legs, go for it. So we'll put one there now to show you. And this arm is just comfy. If you want to have it out straight, that's another option, right? To have it out straight as you protract and retract. Maybe I'll do that on this side. So again, the shoulder blade is moving. It's drawing around the side of my body. Noticing your breath, your jaw, your neck. And when you're comfortable with that, I still like the block. This block is slippery, so it slides on my slippery floor, so I like that. Then we'll try our sunrise. And the sun's going back the other way. I know that never happens in real life, but just playing with that movement and then adding on the sunset so the arm stays in the socket as we rotate through the rib cage. Head and neck just follow. And then notice what's going on this side. So how does the rib cage move relative to the pelvis on this side? Does the arm want to get involved and pull back? Your head? Is your pelvis trying to come? And you might notice, this is sometimes kind of fun, is you can say, okay, at what point does my pelvis start to come? Right about there. You know, or at what point does my rib cage stop moving and my arm take over? So lots of things you can do there. You can again bring your hands to the area to feel what's going on. A little more mobility for me on this side, I think. And then again, you can do the rotation of the pelvis. So we're going to still let the rib cage, the upper body is still as we rotate the pelvis back and forward. Yeah. Nice, easy breath. And then finally, last thing, we'll take that block. Again, you might not need a block. You can see this side might feel different. Sometimes getting the props in place is the hardest thing, right? Rotate the leg bones, set the foot on the block or the floor. And just play a little bit now with that rotation. We're keeping the front of the leg nice and easy. The leg's relaxed here, and we're just rotating. The rotation comes from the back of the hip. Yeah. That's where our rotators are, sort of connect from the pelvis onto the top of the leg bone. Yeah, so we've got that little movement. And then we'll add, I'm going to come back to I'm going to add that shoulder blade movement with the hip. And just notice what you notice on this side. And here we're trying to let just the torso, so this pelvis rib connection to just be quiet while we're moving the shoulder blade and leg bone. Nice. And if you feel like doing a few more, go for it. You can always put me on pause. And then we will once again flip over onto our backs. You keep your legs bent, you can straighten them out and just compare again your left and right sides. And then slowly bringing yourself back up to sit. I'm going to sit on my block. And just take a moment to sort of notice what you notice after that series of movements. So I hope that was interesting, and maybe you learned a few things about your movement, and hopefully you feel calm and rested here. So thanks for watching. Bye now.